Hi guys, thanks for tuning in for today's video tutorial where we're going to be making these really cute succulent pots. You can see I've got two of them whipped up here, and I like them because they're sort of a combination of two of my previous tutorials. The first being last spring's crochet flower pot tutorial where I had these three different flowers that you could make, one of them being a succulent. And then the most recent botanical tutorial I made, which is this bee balm. So I love that these succulents are sort of an in-between size. They work up really quickly, you don't have to compromise on detail, but then they're also still super cute. So I think it'd be a great gift for friends and family here in the spring, or, you know, just to keep your desk kind of cute with a little plant that you can't kill. Alright, so let's jump into our concepts. For today's pattern, I'm classing it as a beginner plus because we need to be able to make a magic ring and a slip knot to get started. You also need to know how to chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. And it also uses increases, decreases, front loop only, and back loop only stitches. So quite a few different kinds of stitches, but nothing out of the ordinary for our normal amigurumi. There's also a little bit of embroidery and a little bit of sewing, nothing crazy, and then one spot where we're going to need to fasten on to loops that we've left behind. Like I always do, I'll walk you through how to do each of these things as we go in the tutorial together. Next, for our materials, we need worsted weight yarn in white, brown, and green, but of course you're free to choose any weight and color. Just remember to size your hooks and accessories accordingly. Bigger weight yarn equals bigger hook and bigger accessory. I'm using a 4mm crochet hook, but again, choose the size that's best for you. I'm using 6mm safety eyes, a little bit of black embroidery floss, and then your standard amigurumi items like tapestry and yarn needles, stitch markers, scissors, and stuffing. And then last, optional but highly recommended, a small scrap of cardboard cut to size to keep the bottom of your flower pot flat. Last, like with all my patterns, the written pattern is going to appear as an overlay in the top left-hand corner as we work, so feel free to reference that as we go. Next, all sections, rows, and rounds are sorted into individual chapters for easy navigation. So if I'm going too slowly for you, you can speed ahead. If I'm going too quick, you can rewind really easily. And last, the written pattern is always going to be posted in the video description as a link to my blog. That's ready to go in the link in the video description below. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to begin with the pot, and I'm going to be using white yarn to make my pot today. You can use whatever color you'd like, of course. I just find the white looked really cute with the succulent, and that's kind of what I stuck with. So we're going to begin by forming a magic ring. Alright, now that I have my magic ring formed, I'm ready for round 1, and we're going to put 6 single crochet stitches inside of the magic ring for round 1. I like to use yarn under, yarn over single crochet stitches as well. I find that it makes a tighter fabric and it creates this X shape on the surface of our work, which I find looks really cute with the finished product. Alright, so there's that first single crochet stitch. I went ahead and marked it. I'm going to add 5 more for a total of 6. Alright, so there's those 6 single crochet stitches. We're going to pull the tail of that magic ring to close off that first round. And we're ready for round 2. So round 2 we're going to be increasing 6 times. So 1 increase in each stitch all the way around. We're just going to be putting 2 single crochet stitches in each stitch. So there's that first one. I went ahead and marked it. I'm going to place my second increase in the same stitch. And then continue increasing. Just 2 single crochet stitches in each stitch all the way around. Alright, there's my last increase. I'm going to go ahead and give my magic ring tail one final pretty tight tug, and then I'm going to flip my work over and trim the magic ring tail. I don't like how it sort of hangs behind as I work, gets in my way. So I like to give it a quick trim, not too short, just a little bit off of it so it doesn't get in my way as I continue working around. Alright, that's round 2, we're ready for round 3. So round 3 we've got some more asterisks, but this time we've got 2 instructions inside. So what that means is we need to make everything that's in those asterisks in the order it appears, the amount of times indicated outside. So we'll start going from left to right. 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of our round. Mark that stitch. Then in that next stitch, 1 increase. So that's 2 single crochet stitches in the same place. And that is 1 repetition of that asterisk. So we're going to do that 5 more times for a total of 6. So 1 single crochet stitch in the next stitch of the round, followed by 1 increase. So there's that second repetition. We're going to keep repeating that. 1 single crochet stitch, 1 increase. Alright, I am all the way around for round 3, and I'm ready for round 4. We've got 2 single crochet stitches before our increase on this round. So 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. Go ahead and mark that. 1 single crochet stitch in the second stitch of the round, and then our increase. So we always want to increase 6 times, but each round we have to space it out just a little bit further to accommodate for the increases from the last round. So there's 2 single crochet stitches and then an increase. We're just going to keep repeating that pattern 6 times total. Some people also like to do an invisible increase where they'll offset the even rows. I'm not very picky. I'll just do them in order. Alright, here's my last repetition. And increase. Alright, that's round 4. Ready for round 5, which is our last increase round. 3 single crochet stitches before our increase now. So there's that first. Here's my second. And third. And then an increase. We're going to repeat that 6 times total now. So 3 single crochet stitches followed by 1 increase. Alright, so that is round 5 done. Now if you're using the scrap of cardboard, now is a really good time to get that measured out. I'm going to be using it because I like the way it looks. It gives the bottom of the pot a nice flat shape. So I'm going to take the loop that's on my crochet hook, I'm going to pull it so it's really long, and then remove my hook. That keeps my work from coming undone as I kind of measure out this circle. So I've got a little scrap of cardboard here, and I'm going to go ahead and just place this circle that I've already crocheted right up here on the corner of this cardboard. And then I'll grab one of my pencils here and I'm just going to trace around the outside of this circle that I've crocheted. Doesn't need to be perfect, just kind of get it close. And that gives me the shape that I'm going to cut out for the bottom of the pot. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my cardboard scissors. I never use the same scissors that I use on my yarn because it dulls them. So give this a rough cut. And then as we cut this out, it's going to need to be just a little bit smaller since we went around the outside of our shape, but it's going to be on the inside. So I like to kind of cut sort of on the inside of what I've traced because I already know this is going to be just a bit too big anyway. So I'm just going to cut around the inside here, sort of rounding it off a little bit better. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's just going to sit along the inside of our pot. So there's that circle, and you can see That is a pretty good fit on the inside of our little crocheted disc so far, so we can set this cardboard piece aside. We're going to come back for it. I find it's easier to measure it out before we start adding more rounds to the top of our pot. It's harder to trace. Alright, so let's take our hook, go ahead and put it back through that loop and draw our yarn down. And now that we've got that traced, we're ready for round 6. So we're going to be working in the BLO, the back loop only for this round. We've been working in both sides of the stitch so far, kind of going from front to back underneath both. This time we're going to be just digging in and grabbing the one on the back side of our work, the back loop only. I sort of think about going down and through rather than up and under, so I'm going to grab just that back loop. And we're only placing one single crochet stitch in each of those back loops around for round 6. So you can see I've got my first one placed here. I'm going to continue working in the back loop only. And that's going to leave the front loop behind on the surface of our work. And it also helps us rapidly change directions. It's going to give us a nice crisp edge and sort of help our pot sort of stack vertically like we want it to. Alright, so just one single crochet stitch in each of these back loops around. Alright, so there's that last back loop only for me. Now we're ready for rounds 7 through 11. So this is our first multi-round repeat. All we need to do is put one single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around for 5 rounds total. So don't forget to move your stitch marker up, or if you're like me, I actually leave mine in place and then count everything from the left side of the marker up so I have 5 rounds total. I'm going to go ahead and crochet rounds 7 through 11 here. I will see you after the cut after I get to the end of round 11 so we can move on to round 12 together. So I'll see you then. Alright, so I have all 5 of those rounds from 7 through 11 done. You can see, like I like to keep my stitch marker in place, I can just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know I'm ready for round 12, and round 12 we're going to be working in the front loop only, putting one single crochet stitch in each. So like we did the back loop where we kind of dove down and in between, for the front loop I like to think about kind of scooping up and through to get just the front loop of our stitch. And then we're going to just put one single crochet stitch in each of these. So we're leaving the back loop behind because that's going to be where we attach on for the soil. So we're going to be leaving these loops on the inside of our work behind for us to kind of use at a later time. So just one single crochet stitch in each of these front loops all the way around. Here it's squeaking a little bit. Alright, so that was round 12. Ready for round 13, where we're going to be back in the front and back loop. Just one single crochet stitch in each of those all the way around. So just your normal bog standard single crochet. All right, so that's the end of round 13, and we're ready to make the brim of our pot. So we're going to start by slip stitching to that stitch that we have marked here. I'm going to go ahead and just slip stitch through. I'll take my stitch marker out as well. And then we're going to chain 3 stitches here. So 1, 2, 3. And then turn our work so that we are looking at the bottom of our pot. So that's going to be facing up. And then we're going to be working back along what we've just made for the brim. So let me turn that one more time so you can kind of see. I'm rotating it, sort of flipping it over so that I can look at the top closed part of the pot and the open parts facing me. All right, so then for round 14, which is going to be the first round of the brim, we're going to be working in the front loops only of each of these stitches that we made in round 12. And we're going to be placing 1 half double crochet stitch in each of those stitches. So we'll start by yarning over, so we're wrapping our yarn around our hook, and then we're going to grab the first front loop here. So this one here, this chain, fills this first one in, so we're going to kind of skip over this one here and go here and place our first half double crochet in that front loop. See, there's that first one. So the chain 3 we made acts as the first half double crochet stitch. So our first real one is going to be kind of in that second front loop. We're going to continue half double crocheting in each of these front loops all the way around, making the brim of our pot. You can see I'm just snagging that front loop. It feels a lot like the back loop since it's sort of where the back loop would normally be, but since front loop is the front side of our work, it's still the front loop here. We're placing just 1 half double crochet stitch in each of these loops all the way around. Alright, so here's this last front loop, that last half double crochet. Then we're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3, push through both sides of that top chain, slip stitch. And then for round 15, we're going to just continue slip stitching around the brim that we've just created. So we're going to be going through both loops, the front and the back loop, and just adding 1 slip stitch to each of those all the way around. Alright, so there's that last slip stitch. So I'm going to slip stitch in the very first slip stitch that I made to close off this round. And then we're ready to cut our yarn. And we don't need a lot. I'm going to cut a short tail, 6 inches or so. And then pull that loop on my hook until the tail I cut passes through as well. And then give it a tug to tighten it into a knot. And there is the pot formed. So now is a good time to add the face details. So first, I like to find where this jog kind of happens, where all of our rounds met each other. You can see down here, it's where those loops sort of jog, and then where our tail is. This is the back side of our work. So flip that right around. We're gonna hide that on the back side here. And we're gonna go ahead and get the safety eyes and the mouth placed at this point. So let's go ahead and grab those. All right, so I'm gonna be using some 6mm safety eyes, my little baby ones here. Grab the little backs that go with them too. And then the eyes are gonna go in between rounds 8 and 9 of the pot. So if we count from our magic ring on the bottom, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So in between these rounds here, just push right through the fabric of my work. And they're about 2 to 3 stitches apart. I'm gonna count 1, 2, I'm gonna put this one 3 stitches apart. But once you're happy with their placement, we're gonna go ahead and snap the backs on. Just gonna lock them in place. Right, so there are the eyes added, and I'm gonna embroider the mouth on after we get the soil attached and all of that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the soil. If you're using that cardboard scrap, now is a really good time to go ahead and insert it into the bottom of your pot. You may need to trim it a little bit too, just in case it ended up being a little big. Mine fits snug as a glove, so I don't really need to trim mine. Now that that's inserted, we're ready to go ahead and get the soil color brown fastened on. So before we get started, I like to roll the brim of the pot down so we can access those back loops that we left behind on the inside of the pot. So kind of just give it a roll. And they're not the back loops from the brim, they're the back loops from round 12. So they're gonna be a little further inside of the pot. So just give those a roll so you can get to them pretty easy. And then we are ready to go ahead and fasten on with our brown. So I'm gonna take my crochet hook and I'm gonna push it from front to back through any of those loops left behind. And then I like to make a little loopy here out of my new color. And then use my hook to snag that loop and draw it through where I've fastened on. And then we'll take the shorter tail from that loop, yarn over with it and draw it through. And then tighten it down. And then for extra security, I like to give this one a knot. It's just a little square knot. Then we're gonna go back through that same loop where we fastened on, and then using our tail, we'll yarn over and draw up a loop. And then yarn over and draw up again. And this first chain is gonna count as our first single crochet stitch. So we are ready for round 1 of the soil. And we've got our first single crochet stitch already made because it's that chain that we just did. So we need to put 2 more single crochet stitches. See, I'm just grabbing those front loops. So there's my second. And my third. And then we're gonna decrease these 2 front loops together. So we'll go through, yarn under and draw up a loop. And go through the next one, yarn under and draw up a loop. Then yarn over and draw through both. You can see that's 1, 2, 3, decrease. So we're gonna repeat that pattern 6 times total, so another 5 times. 1, 2, 3, decrease. Alright, so I'm coming up on the jog here, and I find sometimes it's a little hard to see where you need to go because our rounds are actually spirals and they don't exactly line up. So if you look, I've got 1, 2 loops here, and then this one kind of jumps back down. So I just like to really roll my work. I'm gonna do my decrease. So there's that decrease. And then I'm gonna have to swing my hook down and grab this first loop that we did. So you can see I have to swing down a little bit. So just be really mindful as you're working over that jog. So 1, 2, 3, and my last decrease here. All right, so that's round 1 done. We're ready for round 2. We're going to continue decreasing, starting with 2 single crochet stitches before our decrease. I'm going to go through that chain 1. I always find I have to dig a little bit to get through the chain, but there's that first single crochet stitch. I'll go ahead and start marking. Here's the second single crochet stitch, and then a decrease. And just like before, we're going to repeat this pattern 6 times total. So another 5 repetitions on this one here. It's 2 single crochet stitches, decrease. Alright, there's that last decrease. I'm ready for round 3, continuing to decrease. 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round, followed by 1 decrease. And we'll repeat that pattern 6 times total, so another 5 repetitions. 1 single crochet stitch, 1 decrease. Alright, so there's that last decrease for round 3. Before we make our last round, which is round 4, we need to stuff. So I'm going to take this loop on my hook and pull till it's long, and then take my hook out. And then we're going to grab just a little bit of stuffing and stuff it to the inside of the pot at this point. So I'm going to send lots straight in. Kind of make sure I send it to the outer parts of the pot as well. So I'm sort of donutting it here inside. And then also double checking I didn't push my safety eyes to be at a weird angle. Then I'll add just a little bit straight down to where I've sort of hollowed out the center here. You don't need a ton of stuffing. You don't want to overstuff it. There, that should do it for me. And our soil should dome up a little bit, but it shouldn't just be bulging out of the top of our pot here, so be really careful not to overstuff. Okay, with the stuffing added, we're ready for our last round here on the soil, which is just decreasing in each stitch all the way around. So we're closing it up. 1 decrease in each stitch, 6 total. Alright, there's that last decrease, so we're ready to fasten off. We'll take our stitch marker out, slip stitch the stitch it was just in, and then we need to cut a tail to sew with. We don't need very much, 8 inches should do the trick. And we're going to pull that loop until the tail we cut passes through it as well, and tighten it down. And then to close off this last round, we'll take the tail that we've just cut through the eye of our tapestry needle, and then we're going to be sewing going clockwise if you're a right-hand crocheter, counterclockwise if you're a left-hand crocheter. We're going to be going up through the front loop of each of those 6 decreases from our last round. So we'll sew straight up, whip stitch, rotate. Just going to be whip stitching through each of these. 6 whip stitches, and we're going to pull to cinch that last round closed. Then we need to tie a knot to secure that, so we're going to take we're going to take this tail that we've been sewing with, and we're going to loop it over the surface of our work. And I like to grab a little of the fabric right where the tail kind of comes out of my last stitch, and then sew up through where that is looped. And then as you pull, that loop's going to wrap around. I like to use my thumb to hold it close to the surface of the work. And it's going to tighten to a knot. And then we can weave this tail in by sending it down and into the fabric of the pot here, and then just out through any old place. Then you can unthread your needle and pull tight on that tail and trim close to the surface to weave the tail in. Then we can roll the brim of our pot back up, and then let's go ahead and get the tail from our pot's brim woven in at this point too. So we'll go ahead and thread that through our tapestry needle. Then I like to sew 1 stitch tacking the back of the brim down. So I'm going to grab the fabric right underneath where this brim is, and then sew up through the brim itself. Just 1 whip stitch to kind of help hold the brim in place. And then just like with the soil, we're going to tie another surface knot. And then just weave this straight in and out through any old place here. And give it a trim. Alright, that is the flower pot, or the succulents pot, done. Let's go ahead and add the mouth at this point. So we're going to need a little bit of black embroidery floss. So I've got mine here. We're going to go ahead and thread that through the eye of our sewing needle. And then the mouth is a little W shape. So we're going to be coming up right centered in between where the eyes are. So I'm going to come in through the fabric of my work, making sure not to get any of the stitches itself. I'm trying to just snag this open space between stitches here. And I'll come up through that stitch that's in between those 2 eyes. And we'll leave a little tail of our embroidery floss on the outside of our work because we're going to come back and attach back onto that. So to make the shape, we're going to sew down and at an angle, and then come up on the opposite side. So there's the first part of our little W shape here. We'll come back up, and then over here next to the corner of the eye. And we're going to sew down, and then repeat on the opposite side. So I'm going to sew down, and then come out through where I went in. Again, being really careful not to get any of the fabric of your work. You can see there that forms the little W-shaped smile. Can unthread our tapestry needle, or our embroidery needle here, and then we're going to tie these 2 tails together, making the first square knot very loosely, and the second one will pull really tightly. Then we'll trim these 2 tails really short. You can discard anything you didn't end up using. And then using the back end of our needle, we're going to go in through the fabric of our work on that stitch to the outside of that knot, and then just lift up. I'm just going to pull the knot to the inside. If it's being really stubborn, you can also push it in with your needle. There we go. That gets the mouth embroidered on, shaping up to be really cute so far. Alright, and then last, we need to go ahead and make the leaves. So we're going to be switching to this green color. And we're going to start by tying a slip knot and then chaining 6 stitches. So I'm going to get my slip knot started here. chain 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so we're starting in the second chain from our crochet hook, not kind of the one on our hook, of course. So 1, 2. We're going to place 1 slip stitch inside of this first chain. Then in the next chain, we're going to make 1 single crochet stitch. In the chain after that, we're going to put 1 half double crochet stitch. In the next chain, we're going to put 1 half double crochet stitch and 1 double crochet stitch. And that takes us to the last part of our chain, which is our slip knot. We're going to place 3 single crochet stitches inside of the slip knot to kind of flip us around the other side of the chain. So here's my first double crochet stitch. And my next. And my last. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the slip knot tight. And as I work back down the other side of this chain, I'm going to work the tail in as I go too. So we're going to be working starting here in reverse order of what we did on the first side of our leaf. So we're going to start with 1 double crochet stitch right here in this first chain on this side. So here's my first double crochet stitch. Then we need to place 1 half double crochet stitch in that same spot. So here's half double crochet stitch. Then the next chain, we're going to put 1 half double crochet stitch. In the next chain, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch. And in that last, we're going to slip stitch. Then to close off the top of the leaf, we're going to work through that first slip stitch that we made. So I'm going to go right through that first slip stitch, and we'll make 1 single crochet stitch. Then we're going to work down the center of that chain one last time by slip stitching, which is going to create the vein of the leaf. So we'll sort of rotate our work and go right through that first center of the chain and make 1 slip stitch. And we're going to keep slip stitching down the center of the leaf. Here's the last one you can see is where all those double crochet stitches go together. And then the very last slip stitch we're going to make is going to be in the second double crochet stitch that we made to swing around the bottom of the leaf, the one right in the very center. So make that last. And that's the first leaf. And we're going to continue adding leaves, kind of chaining them all together. So they're going to be spaced out by 2 chain stitches. So we're going to start by chaining 2 stitches. And then we're going to begin our second leaf by chaining 6 stitches. So it's 8 stitches total, but I like to think 2 to space, 6 for leaf. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we're going to make our second leaf just like we made our first leaf. In the second chain from our crochet hook, we're going to place 1 slip stitch. Next chain 1 single crochet stitch. Next chain 1 half double crochet stitch. Second to last chain 1 half double crochet stitch and 1 double crochet stitch. And in this last chain here, you can see these are the 2 that space our leaf out. So in this last chain, we're going to put 3 double crochet stitches. So here's my first. Here's my second. And my third. And we're going to swing around, working back up the other side of this chain. That leaf that we've already crocheted is going to hang around on the back side of our work here. So just let it kind of drop to the back. We'll put 1 double crochet stitch, 1 half double crochet stitch, then 1 half double crochet stitch, 1 single crochet stitch, 1 slip stitch, and then swing across to this first slip stitch that we made on the other side and make 1 single crochet stitch. Then we'll work back down the middle of the leaf, slip stitching in each of those stitches. And that last slip stitch is going to go in the center of those 3 double crochet stitches that we made. There's our second leaf. We'll do that one last time. So chain 2 to space, and then chain 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to start our third and final leaf. So again, in the second chain from our hook, slip stitch. The next, 1 single crochet stitch, 1 half double crochet stitch, 1 half double crochet stitch, and 1 double crochet stitch. And then in that last, 3 double crochet stitches. And we'll swing around, working back up the other side of our chain here. We're going to put 1 double crochet stitch, 1 half double crochet stitch, then 1 half double crochet stitch, 1 single crochet stitch, 1 slip stitch, and then 1 single crochet stitch, working through that first slip stitch on the other side. Then we'll slip stitch down the center of that chain, making our vein of the leaf. Last one going in the second double crochet stitch. And that forms our leaves. So we're going to cut a tail to sew with. I like to have a little extra, so 12 inches. Probably ought to cover it. Then we're going to yarn over and draw through and keep pulling until our tail passes through and tighten down. So I wove in the tail from my slip knot, so I'm going to give that a trim. If you didn't weave it in as you worked your first leaf, weave it in first and then give it a trim. And then we're going to get these leaves prepped to sew on. So let's thread the eye of our needle with the tail left over from these leaves. And then I like to fold them so that the last leaf I crocheted and the second to last leaf I crocheted kind of fold with their veins pressed together. And then I'm going to send my tail straight through the bottom of that second to last leaf. And then I kind of like to swing this leaf around and attach it here along the side. So I'm going to sew right through the bottom slip stitch here on that first leaf. And that's going to kind of bring it up and along the side of these leaves here. And then we can send a couple of stitches through the bottoms of these leaves. So I'm kind of swinging back around, catching that first leaf here. Kind of helping to round these leaves off a little bit. And I'm going to repeat over here on this side, also through here. So it feels a little bit, we're kind of like wadding them together so that they look a little more natural. So you can see it has them kind of sit open like this. All right, last but not least, let's get the leaves attached to the top of the succulent. We're going to send them straight down through that center cinch that we made to close off our soil. I like to come around away from that center cinch. So you can see I'm just snagging 1 round's worth of fabric here. And that kind of sets the leaves on top. And I like to rotate them so that they kind of open up so that you can see all of the veins where his face is. And then we're just going to stack a few stitches going through the bottoms of the leaves where they all come together, whip stitching it here to the top of the soil. So I'm just going to sew down and into the soil again. And I'll sew a couple of stitches. I find people tend to pick them up by their leaves, so I like them to be extra secure. Alright, that is pretty secure for me. I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot and get this all wrapped up. So the surface knot's going to go here really close to where the leaves sit on the surface of the soil. The leaves will kind of hide that knot, so it's a little sneaky there. We'll tie that knot. And then sew down and into the soil and out through any old place. Pulling tight to send the knot to the inside. And then trim. Alright, so with the tail of those leaves trimmed, they are now securely attached to the top of our pot. And that wraps up today's video tutorial. So as always, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I would be delighted if you'd consider giving my channel a subscription. A subscription tells me you like what I do and you'd like to see more. So as always, thanks for watching and happy crafting!